This week we have a awesome guest. This week we have Jerome Myers. Jerome, welcome to the show.
Anthony, I'm so glad to be with you. I don't know what to do, man. How are you?
I'm I'm great, man. I'm great. It's awesome to connect with you on LinkedIn. They go from LinkedIn to somewhat impersonal connection. I love technology, internet in general. I just love it.
The crazy part is I don't even know what state you're in.
True. Right now I'm in Minnesota, but soon to be Arizona. I'm sick of this cold because, like, I heard you talk on the Adams Carswell episode. Like,
Yeah.
he's in Canada, Adam. I'm like, yeah, they can keep that cold. I'm done.
Arizona's a nice town. I mean, it's a nice part of the country. I like a beach every now and again. I mean, I guess you can get on a plane and go to one, but
Yep.
outside of that, Arizona's pretty nice.
hmm I like heat. I like warmth. So I'm going back to where it's nice and warm. They can
Yeah.
keep this cold. So Jerome, a short bio about Jerome. Jerome leads the Myers Development Group, LLC, which focuses on buying broken apartment buildings, businesses, and using innovative thinking and solid execution strategies to optimize the operational efficiency of the business. Currently, Jerome is an asset manager for approximately 90 units and 90,000 square feet of workforce housing across Virginia and North Carolina, and is on a mission to hold 1,000 doors by the end of 2028. When not working actively on his personal portfolio, he coaches others, real estate investors, on the Myers methods of multi-family investing. Outside of real estate, Jerome hosts the Dreamcasters podcast, phenomenal podcast, volunteers on STEM, engineering, and math boards, and enjoys traveling internationally. Once again, Jerome, I appreciate you taking the time to be on the show. I'm honored and grateful for it.
I'm just grateful you reached out and invited me to come share with your listeners, man. So let's
No
get to
problem.
it.
No problem. So I like asking the guests about the bios because the topic of the show is real estate investing in general. But what I've noticed so far is a lot of people have very different bios or backgrounds before they got into real estate, was either helpstones or pivot them into real estate. So I want to hear about your bio, how you got into real estate in general.
Yeah, so it starts with the stoop. And me and my friend Duran were sitting on the stoop sophomore year of college at our apartment complex, and we started doing the math. And the guy was making $700,000 a year top line revenue. We had no idea who he was. We'd never talked to him. We'd never even seen him. And so we realized a couple of things. One, you can make a lot of money in apartments. Two, you decouple your time from the money because we pay rent every month and he didn't have to do anything to actually pick up the rent. So we didn't know how to do it. We didn't even know who to ask. So we went off, graduated, got careers, built some corporate experience. And then in, I guess it was December, maybe November of 2016, I had to lay people off again for the second year in a row. And I was just like, I'm over it. I'm done. I'm not doing the holidays, doing this same rigmarole of we got to balance the budget, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. People need to figure out a new place to work in the new year. And so I left corporate America and I walked into the bank, had some cash, had a credit score, thought they were going to give me an apartment loan. He said, nah, you don't have the right experience. I said, I just grew a division from $0 to 20 million. What do you mean? They're like, yeah, we don't care about that. I said, well, I got an engineering degree. I got an MBA. I got Six Sigma certifications. I got a project management. Yeah, we don't care about any of that. You've never bought an apartment. So you can't buy an apartment until you go find somebody to do it with you that's already done it. And so I went and started fixing and flipping single family homes, got my contractor's license. And sure enough, somebody pulled up at one of my flip houses and said, hey, I'm about to buy this building. Do you know anything about it? And I was like, man, I tried to buy that back in January and February, et cetera, et cetera. Please don't leave me out. Needless to say, he said, how much money are you going to bring? I said, it depends, but let me get in on the deal. Let me help. Yeah. And so he went and made an offer. It didn't get accepted. Come full circle. We took that property from average rents of $695. We're now getting $1195 per unit on that one. Did this overhaul, spent a lot of money, but turned over 23 units from end to end. And we took that experience, and I didn't go quite to South Beach. I went to Greensboro, North Carolina, and started using my talents in a new market. But, since I had my ticket punch, I signed a loan, I was good to go. And so we went off, and me and my multifamily investing friends have started buying in Greensboro.
Nice, nice. So how much was the property for, and where did you find it at?
The first property was 1.3 on LoopNet. We bought it for less than that. And then I can't tell you how much we put in because I don't want to mess up our trade, but we put a lot of money into it to upfit the units. Now we've got granite, stainless steel appliances, in-unit washers and dryers, a half bath on the first floor, um, you know, all new tile throughout, of course, fresh paint, new flooring. So we did a major, major overhaul, new roof, new siding, like you name it, we touched it, parking lot, a whole deal.
Nice. Where was the property located at? What part of?
Richmond, Virginia, in the Churchill sub neighborhood or sub market.
Interesting. So why did you look at that LoopNet? LoopNet is known for where property is going to die. Why did you pick LoopNet to look for it?
Yeah, so fun fact about me, we bought another property off LoopNet in February of this year, and we bought it with $400,000 of equity. So, there's deals on LoopNet. You just have to negotiate and have a solid business plan on what you're going to do to execute and, drive or force the appreciation. So, with all that said, um, we look on LoopNet, one, because we want to see what deals are there, but two, we want to find the brokers who are listing, right? Because they are the main conduit to deals. Now, the other thing that we do is we go direct to seller, but you meet the brokers by getting on LoopNet and see who has listings there.
Nice. That is very true. That's what I utilize LoopNet as well as to, especially going to new markets. You want to know personal contact, so LoopNet is a great choice. So why go from fixing houses to apartments? Why does not just stick to fixing houses or flipping houses?
Yeah, so I learned the hard way that fix and flip is a job, right? It requires your energy, it requires your attention. You're often dealing with people who aren't really mature, and you got to fix this problem and that problem for them. Some of the more established companies don't have those same issues, but when you're first starting out, most of your buy decisions are based on price. And so you're willing to put up with a few more headaches in order to get a cheaper price. And at the end of the day, all that does is eat up your time because you've got to put your time, energy, thoughts into actually making the thing work versus paying somebody a little extra for them to take care of it for you. The other
Understand.
thing is I wanted to get back to the core, right? Like we were sitting on the stoop, we realized that we could decouple our time from money. And so the goal was to get back to that. And so the experience was great because I learned how to estimate projects. And I also got to understand on a deeper level what construction actually looked like and what you had to touch and what you didn't have to touch in order to make a real effect on the ambiance within the units. But, long range, it wasn't a sustainable model for me. The other thing is, people keep talking about some type of correction in the marketplace. I actually had a property that like I sold for 250 in May, and I had the house flood twice, like the week before closing. And so I lost that buyer, and then I sold it in November for 210, right? So, that $40,000 drop was for me an indicator that the market was changing in Richmond. And so getting out of fix and flip for me was one of the, I think, smartest things I did just because of the amount of risk that you can see.
Interesting. Isn't there be technically more risk involved when going after a larger property versus of flipping a house?
There's more capital at risk, but once you, hmm, this challenges one of my underlying basis or assumptions or principles with multifamily, right? So you've got more money at risk, but once you've tamed the wild animal, it's more predictable, right? So I think every apartment that you buy is a wild animal. It's been mistreated by the owner more than often than not because we're buying the broken ones. And in that mistreatment, they start doing really quirky things. And so you got to come in, figure out what it is, and then correct those issues so that you have a predictable business. With a fix and flip, because you are tied to what the house next door sells for, if somebody dumps a property, you can get in trouble because it's going to pull your property value down. With the multifamilies, it's based on your ability to operate, right? So if your net operating income goes up or it's at a higher level than the apartment down the street, your building's worth more than that building. And so we pride ourselves on operational excellence. And so if we're able to do that, or when we do that, we're able to control our valuation.
Like it. I like it. I like being able to control your environment, control your evaluation, being more in control of the environment versus hoping that source property next door goes up in value so yours does the same as in flipping out houses. So can you told us a little bit earlier about how you went to the bank and then they said, okay, you don't have the experience to sign on the loan to get this loan for the property. How did you overcome that? You mentioned the dude rolled up on one of your flipping properties and you eventually came around, got at the table that way. But can you talk to us the process, the experience you went through more in detail about that first commercial property you took down?
Yeah, I mean, so like I mentioned already, I went to the bank and it wasn't just one bank. I probably went to 6 or 7 different banks and they're like, yeah, you don't have the experience. And so I said, I'll put it to the side. I'll come back eventually, but I've got to meet that person who's actually bought a building before. And so as he was walking through my house and looking at the finishes and so on and so forth, he was like, hey, what do you know about that building? I told him, and he went off, made the offer. Then he came back, and one of my buddies who I flipped houses with, he talked to him, and he's like, "Hey, I need you guys to come in and be the contractor for this property." And he was like, "Oh, that's the one Jerome was telling me about back in early winter or midwinter." And so he's like, "I'll do it, but only if he comes in with me." And he's like, I thought you guys were partners. He's like, no, we're not partners. We just do some stuff every now and again together. And so that was it. We got to the table. I came in for project management. He was there for construction. The broker actually came into the deal and he's going to sell it on the back end. The other guy had multifamily experience. And then we brought in a property management partner. And so we split up the deal 5 ways and did a JV on it.
Nice. So what has your experience been so far since you got your first deal done? What has been the experience for you since you got your experience and you name it sign on the documentation? What has been going on for you since then?
Well, I mean, we've went and done a number of other deals. They gave us our freedom papers, man. So we've been running hard and fast, and the goal is always to be the first to the deal, right? So if a broker or somebody has a deal, we want to be the first to look at it. We want to be the first to write the LOI. And if we can get that accepted, then we are the first people to actually put the property under contract, and then we slow down and we take our time to due diligence and make sure that we understand what's happening at the property. Try to uncover those stones so we get as few surprises on the backside of closing as possible. And in doing those things, we've been able to buy a bunch of cash flow. We've been able to make a positive impact on the community. We don't just want to make profit, but we want to do good while doing well, right? And so we want to do good in the community and do well financially. And so, in 2020, we expect to have 3 refinance events and we'll free up a lot of capital, get out of the recourse loans that we're in and transition those into permanent debt with Fannie and Freddie and take that cash and go buy bigger. And we'll continue to do that over and over. And then when somebody wants the properties that we own more than we want them, we'll divest and take that cash and go to the next one. But when we buy stuff, we buy to hold forever. And so it takes a really strong offer to get us to get out of the deal.
Nice. Why go after broken apartments? Why not go after something that's like A class or much more stabilized and just kind of you just come in and just take it over?
So the thing that I learned from fix and flip is there's no fun in servicing debt on a dead asset. And so what we're able to do with these broken apartment buildings is keep enough occupancy that it will service the expenses from the building as well, like the normal operating expenses as well as the debt service. And so I'm able to execute a fix and flip without having to write a mortgage check and drive the valuation of the property up and get my cash back out. And so for me, it is the optimal operating model, right? It's a combination of fix and flip, wholesaling, and buy and hold, where we're executing a burst strategy on every deal. And so for me, it's super exciting. I wanted to go back to school to be an attorney so I could do M&A, but instead of doing that, I've been able to buy apartments, which is a business tied to real estate. So that makes me able to get a loan against the income that the building's producing versus, doing something that's really high risk, like a tech startup or something else like that.
Interesting. So I want to transition a little bit into your mentorship. Why start a mentorship? What got you into, okay, I've done this, I have the experience, I want to give back. What was your thought process behind that?
Yeah, so it's solely because Duran and I didn't have anybody to call when we wanted to go get a multifamily. So I didn't go through anybody's program. I'm self-taught, and I use air quotes around self-taught because I consumed a ton of content. I probably listen to 40 hours of podcasts each week. And just to stay informed on what's happening and things that I may have overlooked or misunderstood in previous consumption of material. And what I found is that is probably the most inefficient way to do it, right? And in addition to it being inefficient, there's an opportunity for you to get confused. And so once we systematize what we were doing, it only made sense for us to go out and share it with people. The other thing I'm really planting my flag on, Anthony, is I don't think you have to buy a car to figure out if you want to be in this business or not, right? There's a ton of people spending 25, 30, $40,000 to find out whether or not they want to do this. And so if we can provide them a package where they can go through and understand everything they need to understand in order to be successful at running the deal, then I think we're doing a disservice if we don't make that available to folks. So, we started Myers Methods with the intention of helping the next Duran and Jerome who want to get involved, don't really know how to do it. Both of us were first generation go away college students, right? So my dad was a soldier. My mom stayed at home with me after she got out of the Navy. Like there were no doctors, dentists, and attorneys coming to my home to have dinner, right? And so this whole concept of high income, freedom of time, and even what accredited versus non-accredited investors are was foreign to me. And so I want to help people get exposure to it without having to give up their life savings in order to figure it out. And I think we've kind of not kind of I know that we've nipped that in the bud. Like we've gone through the first cohort of the virtual course, and people are giving us nothing but consistent positive feedback. And then what the goal is at the end of the day is to create a group of people who are able to go out and find deals. And if they can't take the deals down, they bring it back to us and we help them figure out how to do it. And if they can, that's awesome, because whether I financially benefit from what somebody does or not, I get the same dopamine hit, right? I still feel amazing because somebody else had a great success from the things that they learned from us. And, as long as they're making a positive impact in the community that they're buying in, I feel like my job is done.
Awesome. I love that. One thing I like about being an entrepreneur is being able to give back. Like, I have so many ideas and friends that have ideas. Like, real estate is a way, in my eyes, a way to be able to give back, help them achieve their ideas, as like people have given to me, for me to give back to them as a means to them. So why not charge an arm and a leg or 30 grand or 40 grand or however many coaches are costing right now? Why not do it that way? Why not follow the crowd? Why are you doing the way you're doing it now?
Because it doesn't have to cost that much. And the other thing that I've seen is I've gone into rooms where people have actually made that investment, is many of them aren't actually able to go off and do a deal, right? And so they've made this huge investment, they still aren't able to go off and do a deal. So what was the point? And then I guess the other piece of it is I just don't think it's fair, right? We're keeping so many people out of the game that could actually add value, and we're doing it through pricing. And it's fine, but when I I would suspect that less than 5% of the people that actually go through real estate education actually get a deal, right? So for them to actually go through and make that investment, and maybe the whole reason why you charge that much is to make them not turn around and give up. But the fact of the matter is everybody's not built for this business. And I think people should go in and find out at a much lower fee whether or not they really want to do this. And then if they do, like we've got one-on-one coaching, that's more expensive than what the entry level course is. But at that point, you have a foundation. You're not paying me to teach you how to model. You're paying me to walk with you on the steps of building your network or finding deals or evaluating deals. And because the other thing that happens once somebody does one of those expensive courses, they'll buy anything, right? And just to say they got a deal so that it can prove that they actually were valid in spending the money that they spent. And so now they just lose more money because when you buy a deal at too high of a cost basis, you're guaranteed to lose money. Like you've secured your fate on that deal. And so, yeah, I mean, the goal for me is really just to open up the door because there wasn't anybody that wanted to open the door for me, right? There wasn't anybody who was going to teach me this, and this at a reasonable number. You know, when I walked out of corporate America, I had a year's worth of expenses saved up. And that was my money outside of like the retirement stuff, but like that was my free cash. And so I had to pay my expenses. I had to figure out what I was going to invest in. I had to um, figure out what I was going to spend on education, right? And so all of those things didn't go together. And you know, for the people who take loans against their 401k thinking they're going to get it back, great. But I wasn't willing to place that bet, and I was willing to go about it the long and the hard way. But what if you could go about it the short way and make a much cheaper investment in your education? And the fact of the matter is you've got to pay for some form of education. And what I've seen more often than not, the people who've gone down the path that I've gone down, fortunately I haven't been hit this hard, but they end up spending more money on their failure because they didn't understand they should have understood, or they would have gotten had they paid for education, than they saved, right? For me, my big mistake was I modeled a property. I had it. I had the taxes modeled at $1,000, and the taxes were $10,000. So I made a $9,000 mistake. Fortunately, NOI was high, so we were good on the back end. But the fact of the matter is, I made that modeling mistake. And had I had somebody looking over my shoulder, they would have caught that because it was an obvious red flag. The number was way too low as a percentage of the income. But because I didn't pay somebody for that, you know, I lost that. So was that worth $9,000? Maybe, but at the end of the day, it didn't hurt bad. And so, but what if I would have done that on the estimates, right? So if you underestimate your rehab budget, and let's say you underestimate it by $2,000 and you got a 20-unit building, that's 40 grand, right? That's a big difference, right? And so, you know, you just got to be careful with the risk that you're taking. And unfortunately, a lot of people are overconfident. And what do you do?
That is so true. I love how you were okay. You went through the experience. I gotta give back, and this is your way of giving back. I love it. I love it. And I actually earlier before we started recording, but I want to put on the show. What was the design behind the shirt?
Oh man, so you know, as you mentioned in my bio, I host a Dreamcatchers podcast, and all of this stuff is inspired by the Matrix, right? So I took the red pill, right? I decided that I was going to go down a different path. I realized that there was something wrong with the ladder, or you know, the fairy tale that you get told as a child, and I wanted something different. And I was brave enough to go down that path. And now that I've been down that path, I'm back, and I want to be Morpheus for all the folks who are brave enough to go pursue their own thing. And so I'll present you with your red or your blue pill moment. And then if you want to do the work, we'll reprogram the way that you look at life and take you through the continuum. So Dream Catchers is, we do personal development, life coaching, whatever word you want to put behind it. And so we take people through 6 different pieces of the continuum. We talk about self-image, then we do relationships. That's followed by a career, and we top that off with health, right? And so your self-image, your relationships, and your career are the things that most deeply impact your health, right? And then if you've got great health, you're ready to go to prosperity. If you're prosperous and you have poor health, you'll spend all of your money on your health. And so, we've got those solid 5, right? So now you can make a fist. And then the last thing we do is significance, right? So if you're living a solid life, rock solid life, everything's in the way that it's supposed to be, then you're ready, your cup is full and potentially overflowing. You're ready to pour into others. And so how can you mentor and help people and give in a way, and not just give, but really invest in a way, right? Invest your time, invest your money in the people who are actually going to do something with it instead of throwing it to people who are going to waste it. And so we just take people through that cycle over and over again. We've got a quarterly retreat that we do for people that enter into our cohorts, and we do workshops. And of course, we have the podcast, which is kind of our giveaway for folks who want social proof that dreams should be real and want examples of people who are actually doing instead of just talking. But, they want to do something other than listen to the latest rap album or whatever it is.
So true. What I've noticed, when you change your situation, your awareness, your surroundings, the people you influence or you attracted to you, like yourself, is phenomenal. Like, I got messages on LinkedIn from people that I assume like are great mentors, and they're messaging me. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. It's just the power of your surroundings and your thought and your beliefs is phenomenal. So you mentioned your retreat. Is that part of your powwow? What was your thought process of the power in putting this together? Because I don't see a lot of people hosting something like this or putting this together. It's very interesting.
Yeah, so the powwow, it's our flagship event. It's our mastermind. And what was the thought process behind it? I have a bunch of friends who are, leaders in their pack, their top of class. And when we catch up every so often, they're like, hey, I'm dealing with this. And then I get a call from somebody else, hey, I'm dealing with this. Y'all dealing with the same thing. Let's get y'all in the room together. And then see the power of the network, the power of the minds in the room get involved on a problem that most people wouldn't even care to pay attention to or care to share with anybody else, because, hey, it says that my life isn't amazing. It's not perfect. There's a ton of us who want to present to the world that everything's okay or everything's great, right? And it's not. And that's part of it. Like, if everything is great in your life, you're not stretching yourself. If you're successful at everything you do, you didn't try hard enough. Like, there is just so much more to life than going to work, coming home, watching TV, going to sleep, getting up, going to work, coming home, watching TV, and doing that over and over and over again. And so it's my ambition to only spend time with people who are trying to live out their wildest dreams, right? Financially free, able to go off and make a tremendous impact in the community, and setting stellar examples for those who are looking to them. And, that's who I want to spend my time with. I'd rather be silent than talk to somebody about a football game or the weather, right? I just rather not interact with somebody. I can use those brain cells to do something else. And so the superficial relationships I'm done with, and it's all about scuba diving instead of snorkeling for me.
Awesome. Like you said, your network determines your net worth. When you have phenomenal people, high achievers around you, you become some of them. I love it. And I love how you created it versus trying to find it.
Well, I tried to find it. It didn't exist, right? And there's a bunch of people who are popping up with their little thing now. But the fact of the matter is, this is the only place that you can go and walk into I'll call it a compound with strangers, people you've never met, and walk out as brothers over the course of 30 hours and tell some people some of your deepest and darkest secrets, right? Like one of the guys that came to the last powwow, He went home. He had his mother in an earpiece as he walked into his house. He was like, "Mom, I don't know what's going on. I got this weird feeling." And come to find out, his roommate was crouched in the bathroom with a loaded gun, ready to murder him. And so he walks in, and a shot goes off. He hears his mom screaming in his ear because he just made that statement to her. They struggle, they tussle. He shot him in the shoulder, but at the end, he was able to save his own life, right? And then the guy goes off and murders himself. And, why they went through it or why that happened, nobody really knows, because the guy ended his life. But the fact of the matter is, how traumatic is that, right? Like, you're going into your home, somebody that somebody that was living there with you, at least for a period of time, is there with the intention to cause you harm. Like, that is a life-changing event that changes his trajectory. And I mean, he's got 2 sons and so on and so forth. And it's just like, who do you share that with? Because you sound really soft, right? You can be macho and say, "Hey, look, man, somebody tried to kill me. They shot at me point blank. I survived." But what does that do to you, like, mentally? And are you checking locks? Like, he talked about how he checks locks over and over and over again. And he checks the locks on the windows just to make sure that nobody can get in. Like, you've got to be super secure with yourself and feel like you're in a safe place to actually share, that type of experience and how it's adversely impacted you. You lock the car doors multiple times before you go in the house. Like, all of these things, it's like, nobody should have to live that way, right? And so for me, the powwow, selfishly for me, the powwow is bringing people in who are dealing with whatever they're dealing with, seeing them get their breakthrough, see them get people offer a different perspective on whatever they're working on, and know that they're not telling you this, that, or the third because it's going to benefit them in some way, but because they genuinely care about you actually achieving your wildest dream. Like, for me, that is the epitome of what we're supposed to be doing, right? Because if everybody's working in their genius zone, we're able to impact the world in just a phenomenal way. And, back to this, go to work, go home, watch TV, get back up, do the same thing over again. If you're not living an inspired life, you're wasting it, right? When I was 30, one of the guys that I played high school football with passed away, right? And, like, I went back and looked at our team photo. Like, we were right beside each other. I went back and read some news articles. We were quoted right behind each other. We were co-captains of the defense. Like, that, for me, snapped me out of it. It's like, and he was like one of the greatest people I've ever met. Like, just a down-to-earth, humble, but persistent and tenacious guy. And he died. Like, so I'm just going to take my life for granted now? Like, how can I do that? And I just think so many people have settled into this life of mediocrity and they're stagnant. And how can you be? Like, there's so many other people who have left this place who, from my perspective, would relish in the fact of being able to just do one more good thing, and you're here wasting your life. And you might not feel like you're wasting your life, but if you're comfortable and not making an impact on the world, that's what you're doing. Because we're here to make an impact. There's people counting on us that we've never met to do the thing that's placed on our heart and to get uncomfortable to make sure that it comes to fruition. And so I have no qualms about calling people out about wasting the time that they have here, because time's our most valuable resource. Some people treat money like it is, but time is our most valuable resource. You can't replenish it. You can't get any more when your time's up. And so why would you waste something so precious?
Love it. I love it. Man, the value, the tips you give is phenomenal. You are 1,000% correct. Money you could give back. Time you cannot. I cannot go back to when my daughter is a baby. She is 4 now. Like, time is precious. And like you said, a lot of people are stuck in a comfort zone or stuck in mediocrity and do not want to embrace comfort. Before we move into my final round, I want to ask you, what tips do you have for people that they know they're in mediocrity, they want to change, they want to live a fulfilling life, but they're afraid of change. They're afraid of doing something different than what their parents or grandparents have done before them. How do they, what tips do you have for them to go through change or try something different?
So I guess the one thing I can say to people, it doesn't matter what your religious background is or any of this other stuff. When it's all said and done, imagine somebody greeting you and there's another person with them. It's the person that you were supposed to become, right? If you would have lived out your best life. And you have to have a conversation with that person that you were supposed to become about why you didn't. And whoever you love most has to suffer because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And if you can live with that, keep doing what you're doing. But if you can't, get connected to a group of people who want to see the best for you. And if you do that, it's kind of like when you work out in the gym. If you lift with people that you're stronger than, you'll be the strongest person and you won't grow. If you get in a group of people who are way stronger than you, you're gonna grow to catch up with them. And that's the way that you do it. You don't do it by being the leader of the pack. You do that by being in the back and doing everything you can and struggling through until you create and cultivate the strength to actually have it. um, Dream Catchers is here. This is what we do. It's not cheap, but if it was cheap, I don't know that anybody would actually see the value.
True. And I love your analogy about putting yourself towards the bottom of the food chain to move up. Coming
Mm-hmm.
from an athlete background, I was a skilled player. I lift weights with that lineman because they were bigger, they were heavier, but I'm hitting the same weights they're hitting, and I'm like the smallest guy in the pack. To me, it was just amazing me, but I love that analogy. So we're going to transition to my fire round. I got 3 questions for you, Jerome. Once again, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it, man.
This is
So my
awesome.
first question is, what is your favorite snack? I used to say late night snack, but that put a lot of people in struggle. So I was just changing to put, what's your favorite snack? Like your favorite go-to snack?
Snack. So you're gonna make me show all my fat boy, right? So I love turtles, right? Like turtles are my deal. Like it's something about the caramel and the pecans and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I'll eat a whole 5-pound bag if somebody lets me. Like,
This is why I love the honesty, the real truth about people. I love this. Okay, the second question is, what book has made the most impact you within the last year?
Millionaire Mindset by Dean Graziosi. That book is just phenomenal. I realize that habits are the difference between getting what you want and not, right? If you don't brush your teeth for a year or you brush your teeth once a year, it's pretty safe to say you're going to have cavities, right? But if you brush your teeth every day, it doesn't really seem like it's doing a whole lot, but you're a whole lot less likely to have cavities. And it's the same thing with your habits. If you're continuously making progress towards your goals every day, eventually you get there. One step might not seem to make all that much of a difference, but when you combine that with other steps and the right diet, then you probably end up in a pretty healthy lifestyle.
True. Was the saying go, the journey begins with a single step or the journey of a
Just one
thousand?
step. Just one
Yep,
step. If I'm driving to California from North Carolina at night, I might see 50 feet at a time on that 3 or 4 thousand mile journey. You don't have to see the whole thing. You just got to know you're headed in the right direction.
exactly. So my last question for you, man, is what do you like to do to help you relax from being a busy day of being an entrepreneur?
I walk. I walk every day. Usually 6 miles. And the goal is just to put things in perspective, show my gratitude. I was in a pretty bad car accident and I was in a wheelchair for 6 weeks or so. And so, I'm just grateful to be able to walk. And I practice that gratitude. I do a gratitude practice while I'm watching or walking. I listen to content that will help sharpen the saw. And I think and try to put things in perspective and make sure that I'm actually, you know, worthy of still being here. Hambone's not here. He's gone, right? But for me, I'm here, and I better do something with the time that I have, because if I don't, then I'm no different than him.
True. I love it, man. I love it. Once again, thank you. Can you let the listeners know the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, man, connecting on LinkedIn is the best way to do it. So my name's Jerome Myers, Myers, and I'm the only one in Greensboro, North Carolina. Love to connect with you guys, whether it's via dream catchers or for multifamily investing. At the end of the day, my life's work is developing people and places. And so I'd love to get the opportunity to do that. And for your listeners, I'll do a free 15-minute strategy session so that, they can get on their start whichever way. I'm, I just realized last week, I'm here to end stagnation, right? So if you're stuck and you need to get unstuck, let's get on the line and see if we can put a plan together so you can make that transition to that new place you want to be in.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. I appreciate you taking the time, man. Definitely check him out on LinkedIn. He drops some valuable content on there. Awesome person to connect with and learn from. I appreciate it. Once
Thanks,
again,
Anthony.
Jerome, I thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Talk soon.
All right. Peace.